I hate to talk over the lovely chatter and conversations that are happening. I know. And we will have, this time around for Splice, plenty of time for that, because we're doing a little bit of a different format where we open it up to the floor. We have two wonderful poets and thinkers with us tonight, David Buuck and Brian Ang. And I'm here to intro the intros, which is a bit of a dialogue between our very own Sean and Rodrigo. And really, I want to offer up a little clearing out of the elephant in the room tonight. You know, the question on everyone's minds that keeps them up at night. What is the function of the lyric, if any, within a space that's sort of waffling between the use of a didactic, political, activating, poetic force? You know what it is. We all think about it. But here we have a little time to air it out. And so I hand it over to our very own, and then we'll see what happens. Okay, thank you.
This is not a Laurel and Hardy bit.
Yeah. Well, now that you say it.
All right. That's Laurel and Hardy. Pretty good. Rodrigo, Henry, and I are jazzed to welcome you to a conversation that's been years, maybe decades in the making. The ongoing struggle to understand how poetry and social movements speak to one another, pull at one another, or sometimes refuse one another altogether.
Because tonight we have two poets who don't just write about tensions, they write from inside them. David Buuck lives in Oakland, where he edits Tripwire, a journal of poetics and a pamphlet series. Books include Noise in the Face of, Roof Books, 2016, CITE CITY, Futurepoems, and Army of Lovers, co-written with Juliana Spahr, City Lights, 2013, along with the chapbook, The Riotous Outside, Commune Editions, 2018. He is the academic director of the Clemente Course in the Humanities at Oakland Adult Career Education, and teaches at San Quentin's Prison University program.
Brian Ang wrote the Totality Cantos from Atelos 2022. TotalityCantos.net includes the complete text and a generator that randomizes assemblages of its 1,000 sections. Current poetic project, 1,000 albums, open to the totality of music.
These poets built their work of the Bay Area's long, unruly history of radical experimentalism.
You'll hear that friction right away. For Brian Ang, the connection between poetics and social movements has been on the rise, especially since the university occupations of 2009 and the energy of Occupy in 2011. Moments when language and political practice seem to expand together.
And for David Buuck, that same relation has been steadily eroded, thinned out by institutions, professionalization, and what he calls cultural delinking, where poetic expression becomes a substitute for actual collective struggle, except perhaps in places where resistance is lived rather than theorized, like in labor movements, anti-imperialist militancy, and general cultural scenes that don't wait for permission.
Between them, we get this productive tension, a sense of opening and closing, expansion and capture, possibility and blockade. And both poets arrive committed to crackling something open inside that tension, whether through Brian's assemblage poetics, a mode that asks how words, actions, and structures recombine,
or through David's call for departures from the, quote, already approved, the weird, the unruly, the forms that push past careerism and institutional gentleness. They meet, too, in a shared refusal of the poetry economy, the prize hunger, the respectability rhetoric, the smoothed out, brand safe poetics that passes as radical.
What they share is a vision of poetry as a site of stakes, political, aesthetic, and collective. Both are invested in internationalist thinking, in the avant-garde as a living, contested practice, and in forms of poetic labor that don't merely represent movements, but intervene in them.
And this is why we asked them the same set of questions. Their answers, sharp, generous, and occasionally contradictory, helped us shape tonight's frame. Poetry not as a mirror, but as a set of tools. Tools for assembling new relations, or as David might say, assembling new audiences who have not yet been called into being.
Tonight, you'll hear two poets working at the edge of what poetry can still do, politically, formally, and collectively.
And afterward, we'll all turn these ideas over together in the round table, where we hope the conversation will be as alive and contradictory as the work itself.
Please welcome to the Splice stage, David Buuck.
Wow, thanks you all. I'm not going to set the bar kind of high. I'm just setting my timer for 20 minutes. I'm going to read some of my own work, and I thought I'd read some work of other poets who I feel in conversation with that I've published with Tripwire, kind of in anticipation of our discussion Brian and I are hoping to have afterwards. And just increasingly, I'm interested in putting others' words into the air. Not everyone can come to New Orleans. And then, I just, whatever the fuck, like whatever the fuck a red line is, whatever the fuck a demand is, whatever the fuck rules of engagement, whatever the fuck, wherever the fuck my reading glasses are, whatever the fuck an exchange of fire, whatever the fuck an exchange of proposals, an exchange of prisoners, wherever the fuck a negotiated settlement settles, whatever the fuck a cessation of hostilities ceases, whatever the fuck a peacekeeping mission keeps, whatever the fuck the International Criminal Court courts, whatever the fuck an accord even, whatever the fuck a history of the region, whatever the fuck battle-tested meals ready to eat, a 500-pound bomb actually even, whatever the fuck a future market thinks, whatever the fuck value-added ads a financial instrument instrumentalizes, whatever the fuck a World Bank banks on, environmental inputs, resource extraction outlays, liquefaction, whatever the fuck the server farms farm, whatever the fuck a hamburger even is. Just reading things from across the last 5 years in relationship to, in context of what Brian and I have been discussing. And we go way back as what I think of as not antagonists, but protagonists, the kind of friction of debate in order to push the work forward, the thinking forward. This is from 2020, the George Floyd moment in Oakland. There's some references, I won't bother to explain them because of time, but I can just, like, if you're from Oakland, you'd be like, that's really clever and funny, but just assume it's clever and funny. This was written in 2020 during the curfew, which is one way the state was attempting to contain protest. It's called Curfew and Far Between. Night in the city is now owned by the police. The cover charge is our obedience till day breaks and real estate realism resumes its crime data mining. The risk assessors crafting riot insurance policies, hedge funding the counter-revolution as the porch pirates expand the gift economy at the pot latch down at the sideshow. I watched the helicopter feed the Oakland docks, lit and lit up, surrounded by cops, called in from the suburbs to kettle the protest downtown, tricked out donuts, burnt trash cans versus burnt rubber. Downtown, inside a para-tactical multitude, not all things aside one another touch, or are touched, but perhaps in those epic gaps some sparkle lights, forged in disparate elements newly charged by heat of purpose and forward moving in common frequencies that resonate through glitch-rhythmed idioms across the shattered vocabularies, so as to understand space as a given fluidity, structured by the eye of the satellite or the landlord, zip-coded and zip-tied territory contestable by bodies aligned in negation of that ideal they call civic harmony. Instead, a confluence of disharmonic resonance, each shield a mobile placard, each placard a shield against a hammer beat of batons, each splinter a glitch in time's gap between the clock and the counter rhythms of revolt. Be like water, the sigil read, spray painted on the trash bin. A barricade made of ballot boxes lights it up. Never made a set list. I can't read my own. Oh yeah. So then I'm going to read, speaking of riot reports from the streets, this is wrong issue from Tripwire 20, the young Peruvian poet Valerio Roman Marroquin, translated by Noah Mazer, who's now based in Mexico City. This is just an excerpt from her poem, Comrade, January 19th. I lose sight of you, nightsticks and steel tips, that's what they block. The street, excited as ever to put their tools to work, they work cruel. I lose sight of you behind flags, megaphones, drums, bandanas, helmets, shields. I lose sight of you and imagine you in the closest public hospital, in state custody, in the bed of a truck with no plates, headed God knows where. I lose sight of you and don't look for you anymore on the edge of the crowd. Now we're multitudes again. From here on out we feel our way, forging the basis of our project and its program. Forceful, feasible, possible, a new country like you and I said. Comrade, something. Different, comrade, something. So that nothing at all can stay the same. Comrade, then I lose sight of you. The tyranny front is waiting for us, its useful spokesman, its de facto workers. I lose sight of you. Before the clash, the inevitable disconnect, you and I have already calculated. There's something concrete and material to give to the people, some kind of support, mutual aid, of stepping in when violence gets ahead of our tactics. It doesn't matter, I lose sight of you before the repression comes. I was with the masses, and I felt like you were too. This is from the Shatter Collective, which is three poets, women poets in Beirut, performance collective, and first publication of their work in the U.S. And Tripwire will be publishing a book of theirs. They're also musicians. The album is called Poppies in October. There's an eerie quiet now in Lebanon through the violence continues here in Palestine and across the region. We are living among monsters, both ancient and newly forged, mythic in their cruelty, mechanized beyond imagination. The weapons that maim our people and scar our land now are not the tools of human conflict, but instruments of annihilation, precise, detached, insidious, relentless. Language fails in the face of atrocity, but we continue to write. I'll say that again. Language fails in the face of atrocity, but we continue to write. Poetry becomes both exorcism and architecture. We expel what cannot be born, and we construct imperfect vessels for what we cannot bear. For memory, rage, tenderness. Poetry allows us to shape what resists expression, to speak from the fractures. We do not write to make sense of violence, but to mark its weight, to register grief and defiance in lines that tremble with life. Jesus, I've never, what? God almighty. I mean, you know, whenever the fuck the beat hits the ground, whenever the fuck the algorithm sleeps, whenever the fuck the numbers breathe, death rattles in the chemtrails, the aftermath stops beginning, whenever the fuck the United Nations even are as such, whatever the fuck just in time really is for who's what, the ship is scheduled to dock, the weapons manufacturer showcase takes place, the strategic talks take place, whatever the fuck the back channel negotiations take place, who takes place at the table, the catered meal takes its place, the forks in the spokesperson's gullets, the nanobots in the soup, the markets responding to the news, wherever the fuck the intelligence isn't artificial, whenever the fuck the cost-benefit analysis pertains, whenever the fuck the grain rations ration for who, where, whenever the fuck the debt comes due, other than already, always, placing its take as such. whenever the fuck the tide actually turns, whenever the fuck the rot and the stink, whenever the fuck the line breaks or the new song takes its place. Cameron. Where's Cameron? All right, you're up. I asked Cameron to collaborate with me. This the rule was no rehearsal. Do you remember that bit? Is it dark enough, or should we have even less light?
Less
I'll
turn it down.
passive aggressive. Right? All right, this is I'm going to set this one. This is just because ICE is well, ICE is everywhere, but I know ICE is having a surge in New Orleans. This is actually a poem built out of leaked material from the Obama administration for their internal memos on. They had 3 priorities of who should be picked up or arrested or deported and put into the system for so-called illegal immigrants. So it's and then leaked information about that had the that I have somewhere that has the where every detainee was held, state of country of origin, and cause of death for the hundreds that died in custody under Mr. Obama. And it's an erasure piece. Priority 1, priority 2, priority 3. The removal of aliens who pose shall be ICE's high. These aliens include engaged in or suspected of or who otherwise pose, aliens convicted of, particular emphasis, and repeat aliens who participated, subject to outstanding, who otherwise pose to public safety. Aliens who are, otherwise, obstruct, fugitive aliens in descending priority as aliens who pose security, or who otherwise pose the community other than and who have not been. Aliens who re-enter in descending priority as aliens who pose previously removed, who otherwise pose to the community, previously removed, who have not been convicted of, who obtain admission or status by.
Country of birth.
Sorry, dude.
Country
I
of
told
birth.
you we should over-rehearse. All right, go ahead.
Country of birth.
Cuba,
Country of birth.
Colombia,
Country of birth.
Honduras,
Country of
Mexico,
birth. Country of
Argentina,
birth. Country of
Yemen,
birth.
Haiti,
Country of
Haiti,
birth. Country
Cuba,
of birth.
Mexico,
Country
Fiji,
of birth.
Korea, Algeria,
Country of birth.
Cuba,
Country of birth.
Vietnam,
Country of
Guatemala,
birth. Country of
Pakistan,
birth.
Mexico.
Country of birth.
About extraordinary circumstances or the requirements of mandatory detention, field office directors should not expend detention resources on aliens who are known to be suffering from serious physical or mental illness or who are disabled, elderly, pregnant, nursing, or demonstrate that they are primary caretakers of children or an infirm person or whose detention is otherwise not in the public interest.
Final cause of death.
Seizure disorder,
Final cause of
multi-system organ failure,
Final cause of
electrocution, ruptural
cause of
berry
death.
aneurysm of the right
Final cause
middle,
of death. Final cause of
cardiac
death.
urgency,
Final cause of
undetermined,
death. Final
ruptured
cause of death.
arteriovenous
Final cause of
malformation,
Final
midbrain,
cause
germ
of
cell
death.
tumor with
Final
metastasis,
cause of death.
hanging,
Final cause of death.
sequelae of acquired immune
Final
deficiency
cause of
syndrome,
death.
AIDS, asphyxia,
Death.
asphyxia,
Final cause of death.
complications of hanging,
Final cause of
natural,
death.
compulsory,
Final cause of death.
cardiopulmonary arrest, cardiac
Final
arrest,
cause.
cardiopulmonary arrest / AIDS,
Final cause.
complications of acute
Final
cerebral
cause of death.
vascular accident, complications of cirrhosis of the liver, final cause of death pending. Thank you. Give it up for Cameron. And then, so many papers. I'm going to read something from the British activist Lisa Minerva Lux, who's part of Palestine Action in the UK, which, as you maybe know, was ruled a terrorist organization. So even if you wear a shirt that says Palestine Action, you can face up to, I think, 10 years in jail. And I met Lisa when I was in London this summer at the courthouse when this ruling went down. And this is coming out in the next issue of Tripwire. Lisa Minerva Lux, have you been a danger to empire today for Said? The day the CID called my arrest of national interest, I came loyaler to the breadth of shoulders, to carving patterns on the walls of our cells when they corner us. I've seen how the shadows of statues ache. And the best thing I can teach is that almost everything you need to threaten England's trade with heresy can be bought at a B&Q. And one version of uprising is making amputee of your country. The other is parade. Every brick is pregnant with smashing banks. Don't let friendship get in the way of comrades. Never ask permission from governments you don't respect. And how to break in is how you broke out, with bally and gloves, crowbar, all doubt left back at the safe house. Wherever the fuck the horizon is, wherever the fuck the headquarters are quartered, the generals or the CEOs, wherever the fuck the fuckers who did this, actually, wherever the fuck the functionaries function, wherever the fuck the financial projections project, wherever the fuck the actuaries actually even, wherever the fuck austerity doesn't pertain, the algorithm doesn't pertain, wherever the fuck targeted assets don't exist, wherever the fuck cauterization or aquifers or abattoirs, the living protein, the scheduled meat, wherever the fuck the other side is, wherever the fuck the light in Goya comes from, wherever the fuck the ghost, wherever the fuck the airdrops drop, wherever the fuck the language breaks, the line is red, broken or otherwise, redlined as such, wherever the fuck a poem pertains, wherever the fuck this what might yet, wherever the fuck this when might be or will have been, when what is was. Illegible sentences engraved on penal colony ground skin, 1,986,438. Scorpions in agitated soil, new prosodies pulsing from a braided earth wound, scraping infected syllables into poems of irredeemable conflagration. Recitations producing flame from mouth and lung, or apparitional stanzas of dirt and ash in unscannable windstorms. 4,632. Crystalline split in time and exact moment when glass shatters in 1,000 boardrooms. Surge of prisms, solar flares, balance sheets dissolving into actuary mycosis. From within the charred mortuaries, dead lips emerge from torn body bags to spit and hiss. Matar a la muerte. 436,236, 62,889, 3,840, 1,046,782, and every tainted pixel, every scar in every street, each sulfurous gash in the earth, gaping wound of decimated city and village and encampment, each charnel house emitting defiant fumes or ululations, every ocular nerve drained of its afferents, every last word trapped in collapsed young lung or torn thorax, each last poem scratched into dirt or mud-walled tomb, endless rain of soot in epidermal cell matter, chorus of wails echoing across occluded sky, every shadow cast by every bomber, each manuscript aflame in every destroyed university, releasing ink-stained heresies of memory and carbon, each poppy on each unmarked grave in numberless cemetery. Each disembodied and distended throat choking on human ash, 268,512. Inside out esophagus vibrating vocal cords with last wind of speech, screams of such intensity that smash all camera lenses, refracting the light of dead stars. Every last thing, save for the despairing yet defiant cry of borderless song. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And thanks so much to Henry Goldkamp, Sean Monroe, and Rodrigo Toscano of Splice for having us. I love the intro. Thank you so much for those thoughts. And very happy to read with David, who I've known for a long time and have done a lot of things together. I like what you said about protagonists. Yeah, that's great. And glad to be back in New Orleans. I was here for the Poetry Festival this year and had a blast. Sean sent me the best reading invite. Quote, "Yo, we need more martini time together in New Orleans." At the festival, I was on a roundtable for Inulet's forthcoming folio on American poetry 2008 to 2025. The roundtable gave me and David the idea to have a dialogue to get deeper into topics provisionally of assemblage, the avant-garde, and San Francisco Bay Area poetry. But it can go many directions. We're both from San Francisco Bay Area. I've selected materials to read for that dialogue. And after we dialogue, we also plan to open it to comments and questions from the floor, so be free to have that in mind. Also, I have copies of my book, The Totality Cantos, for sale. This is the first paragraph of my piece, Haginian Assemblage, from a feature in the online journal Jacket 2 on Lynn Haginian, who was associated with language writing in the Bay Area since the 1970s. I want to add to Lynn Haginian's ideas about, quote, devices that may serve to open a poetic text, from her essay, The Rejection of Closure, and by extension, aid being open to the world. After hearing me read from the Totality Cantos in a reading she, Joshua Clover, and I gave in 2013, Lynn invited me that year to contribute to her Atelos publishing project and published it in 2022. I wrote the Totality Cantos from the desire to be interested in everything, open to the totality of discourses. I suppressed proper nouns for their centralizing effects and verbs for their striating of subjects and objects that reduced connections among words, producing what I call smooth syntax, increasing connections among words, extending sense in all directions. Haginian saw in the Totality Cantos, quote, a prolonged and indefatigable act of rebellion carried out in the sphere of aesthetics, from her introduction at the book's release. TotalityCantos.net includes a generator that randomizes assemblages of the Totality Cantos' 1,000 sections. Using the generator, I'll read 5 sections: 70-10, 26-9, 66-3, 12-10, 96-2, then segueing into Appendix A, Transversal Totality, which is the poem's 1,000 one-word lines. A traversal of the whole, an excerpt of the one-word lines from Totality Cantos 41 to 50. Allied quick historian theorist turbulence temperature sacraments. 3. Skewed sensitive psychoanalytical quantum writing media. Mass-produced wave breakthrough style fact template rise return response warts. Fundamental cooler theorizing nightclub couturier gossip family honor caveats. Money deserts. Domestic empire animal number magazine. Feminine physicality obstacle. Glass birth run witness light text path forebears. Embedded pastor meeting house war. Exploits. Same best thumping founder slope patron rate. Skeptical standoff regimes party states. Restoration constraints. Zero mutual ill strategy wharf writings. Charitable craftsman appearance judgment. Parliamentary cuckoos brief gamble drilling top king dummy ruled. Stress, scales, crying cavemen mystery tale text fashion essay weeds. closer human-centered time former instance end items, acquainted change syndicates, criminal morality, atate, mass gossip, tallness father, false intellectual sovereign, obscure hill, entity, responsibility, position, talent bats, tropical armored, conversation image, slavery legends, implicit classified, slow independence, century barbarian seconds, superconductor, society consensus, healthy dozen race, heart fused justice, imperialism, baptism burnings, fusion, holiday, measurement, lifelight, touched, influence, wealth, grave, mindset, phase, world, bonfires, provision, map, riots, object, cardinal, century self, tougher, congenial, victory, doctrine, distortion, member, set conclusions, reality light, maturity, extreme market, labor, value, virtue words, made prior, providential, serious method, brain slice, objective illness, website, variety, violence, grain, revelation, device gears, another battle, transfer, breath part, intellectual, symmetric, inductive, metaphysics, story, section, culture, sympathy, knowledge kingdoms, humdrum, sentimental, power, sex, military species, allocations, antisocial, silver, family, titanium, ebooks, elementary, girlish, attempt, imagery, weakness, settler, irony, help, rare, invented, imperial, gate, book, wife, screen, liver device, rear, poetry, tricksters, mythic, intermediate, recital, fiction, cathedral, self-led, bone, education outside, machinery cancer, angelomorphic, prior nerve, nature, paradox, duty motivos, quantum bathhouse, tenseness, stoa. Sacrifice, architecture, solitude, chapters, bishop, path, gospel, days, culture, doves, critique, modernity, vaginas, lack, progress, tendency, surge, sigh, paradox, megachurch, correspondence, dreaming, destiny, remains, constraints, stigma, illusion, women, discord, endings, century, predator, discovery, death, spirit, superstition, dinosaurs, fatality, guru, ancestry, adultery, poetry, vote, livelihood, robe, observation, thought, fall, month, consultancy, savings, usability, accumulation, carbon, condition, imperative, concept, priest, taxonomy, publishers, willing, distribution, mechanisms, facts, description, community, scrolls, eyes, classes, lady, oxide, platforms, chromosome, kings, throngs, procession, helm, extract, morphology, neurons, biochemistry, versions, others, finds, jurisprudence, regeneration, copyright, sunset, lectures, humility, humanism, alliances, moralism, milliards, meltdown, attributes, whatever, one, consuming, souls. Writing the Totality Cantos led to my first naming of assemblage poetics in my work. Assemblage poetics, constructive verse, writing adequate to apprehending totality. This year, David's journal Tripwire published a dialogues issue with a conversation between me and contemporary Australian poet A.J. Carruthers called Totality Axis Music Assemblage. This is from that conversation. Assemblage poetics is my response to my concern with totality. I began elaborating assemblage poetics in an essay, Assemblage Poetics, and a collection, Assemblage Sampler, to continue constituting assemblage poetics. Assemblage poetics is concerned with how words and things may connect, how assemblages and practices that articulate them may connect, a collective project for reassembling totality. I'm interested in a decentered, multi-axial poetics, drawing a smooth space of practices to which more critical practices may be connected. An assemblage of practices to apprehend totality and reassemble it otherwise. Your practice as a long poem writer or epicist apprehends different things than mine. I see assemblage poetics as a way of connecting our practices along with others' in assemblage poetics' emerging discourse. That quotes from both my assemblage poetics essay and multi-axial poetics, my introduction to the assemblage sampler collection. More from multi-axial poetics. All practices are of interest. Quote, what we see is a spectrum of how creativity is manifested on this planet. And what we also see is the ingenuity and imagination of the composite whole of humanity. From Anthony Braxton, Triaxiom writings. On the avant-garde, to me, avant-garde means opening new possibilities. I'm not satisfied with the way things are, so that's a permanent task. Every line in the Totality Cantos is a complete poem, a totalization, a singularity, a made thought, which enables the reassembly. I'll read an assemblage of the 10 lines in the Totality Cantos with the word avant-garde called Dimensions of the Totality Cantos, avant-garde. Archaeological sodomy, avant-garde, legend, altarpiece, medium example. Outer computer-generated avant-garde singing concept corpse dust bog garter fairies. Indirect binary avant-garde beauty departure domain phoneticism team heating travails. Truth history avant-garde. Violent erotic avant-garde jury tinge understanding self-observation uncertainty. Township avant-garde philosopher style job. Disguised avant-garde breeding change combination status vision judgment sites. Distinguished material front fallacy avant-garde. Avant-garde bronze rice freedom thymine cleansing hand axe. Black public realist avant-garde anxiety logic damage monument abyss. Now that I've written the Totality Cantos and initiated assemblage poetics, I'm writing about multiplicities that constitute totality. My current poetic project is 1,000 albums, open to the totality of music in 500 sections. 1,000 albums commences a series of book-length poems called The Multiplicity Project. This is another excerpt from Totality Access Music Assemblage. Music has been an interest to me before I started and as long as I have been writing. I chose writing as my life's work because I was better at it than music. My first studies in writing coincided with my studies in music as a radio DJ, through which I discovered experimental music. 1,000 albums affirms and continues my lifelong interest in music. While writing it, electronic dance music has increased in interest to me for its techniques of sampling and improvisation and being complex music to party to. 1,000 albums is dedicated to my friend Oleg, one reason being for his increasing my interest in electronic dance music through going to shows together, but typically end late, many times watching the sun come up after shows, talking philosophy. From 1,000 albums, sections 366 to 370, which includes New Orleans music material, and his latest sections, 426 to 430. Hybrid indexical sophisticated system will adaptation map. Darkly merging closing history, industry center, distance edge consciousness platforms. Reality. Instantly black, essential cuteness chorus war couple documents. Surplus idol allure. Stylistic practice altercation neighbor husband researchers. Synth substrate eroticism preservation operators. impressive anti-establishment communication mind, Samba Brothers, winding multiple Playboy, vinyl response repertoire idea authority transliterations, electronic tribal gender blackouts, Park, full-length global self-delusion commerce cylinders, Camphor dogs, broke, difficult, flickering supervised credit video train whiskers, based rockin' racial illusion, streamlining terror, birth, balance, capacitance, looky-loos, culture concept touring, looped, hammered, jolly, funk, feed, riff, series, collection creators, superimposed oral flag, authenticity protection precursor, drained, shape-shifting lawn analysis, classroom heartburn nation states, purpose institutions, eclipse beer cyborg imagination contributors, white hot vocoder ambition preachers, true suggested real modern media memories, deaf viral piano playing manifesto, echo decision child spin-off scene metaphors, untapped habit humming retailer factory ceremony author forging listeners, dissolute charismatic CB Lee Zasso gaze shedding renewal painting descendants, Q agrarian aesthetics women consumption play humor tears, spying trauma update, emoting experimentation guerrilla guitar call Kuika corridor regime proximity masses, agnostic dead conflicto success, poptimism, wild oxymoronic original diasporic context performance spectacular services, commercial encounters, live cosmic percussion imagery nature cultures, pitiless wending holy management morning animation attribute pop vendors, fervent carnival disaster jazz artwork animal archive, claustrophobic spectrum beehive sketch coda rose, sports circuit cause, song celebrity currency fools, girl radiant other house caped on, artificial streetwise effective disco noise backlash milieu innovations, pet shame sanctuary inspiration rhino technique, excellent sacred abstract incidental hate parade plenty time chocolates, fantastical sex positive transmedia anti-celebrity summer soldier dis means iconoclasm axes, subcultural progressive supernatural festival election coalition pitches, state-of-the-art refrain, trickster trellis layer, cook, contrapuntal celebrity, skewed chic self-energy, tonight's committed affirmation disco lot, keener, uncontainable, semi-ironically, back-to-back, crate digging, opposite tragedy reason, plaintiff, turntable, landmark, meter child, unificado, fatale, immobile, stark, starry, strong arm, funniest, fever, shoten, exception, earth, invaluable, metal, major, inspector, deconstruction, entertainment, fire, film, wolf team, food, gender, sitcom, free, fatuous, flowering, forgiven, change chorus, reverent, cerebral, tropicalia, summer, nostalgia, number, channel, exchange, blood rats, enamored, meh, opera, echo, pearl, ghost folk, semaphore voice, metropolis, orchestration, heyday need, out, universal, neo-traditional elite, prolific, self-conscious, award-winning, troubled chat, poster, reunion home, fruitful, black and white, media, mano, appropriation relationship. Relentless, unsettling creation cafe Creole. Sobreviviendo queer, well-loved shit, underwear, pass, flannel, activist realities. Pregnant, paramount, statesman, research, chance, interpretation, tale, block, talk, idols. Impact, soundtrack, archive, quietus, dynamics. Father songs. Holy, absolute actress, atmosphere, peripheria, planet, melody, waters. Skin deep, romancing, beloved, mirror, sense, practice, marriage, jam, possibility. Guru, footage, fairy drinks. Bulletproof, peppermint, staircase, fruition, avenue, computer tensions. Ambient girl, nature, soul, happiness, dawn. Pig, hell, rumori. Eagles. Sweep, simplicity, inversion, feminism, cream, drop, judgment, heft. Minus, ubiquitous, tapestry, superstar, sheep, ode, pillow, innovation, epic. Bus bets. Conservative, chocolate cookie. Self-defensive, tiger, gaming, griefing, blues blog. Hope, honor, cuteness, turf. Pretty, funk, balance, meaning, quadrant, synchronicity, soldiers. Fucking artful, industry, identity, imperialism, mother, studio, video, completion wheels. Gratitude, gossip, cover, chauffeur, costumes. Nateau. Declarative, torpedoed, truth, sword, falcon, market, tennis, unburdening, despair demons. Better, triumphed, desire, aesthetic, result. Exhausting prayer, friend, field, storybook, torso, cassette, light bulbs. Sorry, sweetness, lockjaw, racism, heart shores. Slithering, segregated, iconoclastic impression, presence, mourning, musical concept clubs. Unexpected headline, curio fan. Self-blame. Wave continuity. Fabulous, psychedelic, detachment. Respectable, arranged, darkness, collaboration, candy, house, fellow. And now let's have a dialogue.
Brian, can I ask you a question, Brian?
Yeah.
How do you wait till the peeling out stops? How do you differentiate assemblage poetics from post-conceptual poetics? And my definition of post-conceptual poetics would be, a concept plus a responsibility of editing.
Say a little more, actually. Yeah. Concept plus responsibility.
So, for example, if I were to, say I'm going to use the 5th word of every line in the Bible and just publish that, that would be conceptual poetics for me. And then if I was going to use the 5th word from every line in the Bible, but tweak it a little bit and move some words around and make it a little more coherent or do some other things, that would to me be post-conceptual. So I have some editing responsibilities in the post-conceptual aspect of it. So how would you kind of navigate or kind of elevate assemblage poetics against a post-conceptual idea?
Yeah, I guess the way I can answer that is chance operations like John Cage and Jackson McClough, which is influence on conceptual writing, is a big influence for me. But like a purely drilled, chance operations, wasn't interesting enough for me. I needed to have some improvisation in there. I even take off on that with some of my influences, like Anthony Braxton, for instance, who I mentioned in my reading, who's also influenced by Cage and McLeod and stuff. Cage especially, but purely drilled, chants, like for instance, like a procedure, like you said, Sean, like every fifth word of the Bible. I did some of that stuff in my early work, but it wasn't interesting enough to me. So it's like I had to add some improvisation, to make it more interesting to me. So, and I think the implications of that is to amplify the subjective factor, of improvisation, choosing. And I think assemblage poetics, which is my current concept to kind of name, what I'm interested in, philosophically, aesthetically, politically, tries also, to amplify that that subjective factor, and it is a response in many ways to the wake of conceptual writing, which famously tried to diminish the reader, or diminish the writing. It's like the concept is more important than actually reading it. And I think that was an important intervention to make. But immediately, it's like I want the work to be interesting to read, and so and to experience, not just think about. So that's my way I attempt to advance from that problematic at that time.
My request is, I'm gonna look at you. Can you cut us off at 7:45?
Yeah.
I mean, then if everyone's like, no, don't stop. I really want to hear more about.
Can I ask you a question off of your question, Sean? Can I ask a question off of this? I'm really curious. You're saying the difference is there's an improvisation which should be inherited in that chance, like in H model. Is there a preparation or some particular practice that you have to prepare for that improvisation? And then the second part of that question is are those sets of practices, do you think, specific to poetry in your poetic practice, or would they be more human in our ways that we might respond, like extemporaneously to whatever we meet by chance? So is there any preparing for the chance? And then are those practices more than merely poetry specific?
Yeah. There's a lot of preparation for the improvisation. And lots of gathering of materials, lots of organizing the materials to then enter into the moment of writing. Which is an improvisation. So, and I think I get that out of, again, Braxton, which he creates these elaborate musical systems, and then when he enters into a performance or a time for recording something, he is plugging into the moment. And I get this from him too. It's like he thinks of everything happening on the planet, and every saxophone line he does, every line I write, it's engaging with the present. So that's the answer to your first question. And can you say again your second question?
Whatever you might do this could carry over to you if you have practices that prepare you to extemporaneously respond to some chance operation and everything, like open course in the Bible, like Sean's example. But would the preparation for responding extemporaneously, is that something that might transcend the practice of poetry, but be like a human thing? It's kind of ironic to prepare for spontaneity. So that may not be merely poetic.
Oh yeah. So I think I understand a little bit like the specificity of poetry, and all other practices. Well, poetry is what ended up being, I chose to be my practice, my life's work. But as I said in my reading too, all practices are of interest to me. So be it music, film, cooking, sports, that's part of the desire to be interested in everything. Yeah.
But do you?
So,
Can you fail at spontaneity?
Yeah.
Can you
Okay,
fail?
sorry, I'm done now.
I mean, one of the things I want to say is like, what is conversation? What is contingent improvisation in response to language? If we're talking about just language-based discussion within social codes, we push up against those, and it becomes what we call awkward or improper or interesting or like curious, or opens a door to something. And that to me is, and from the moment I don't know, I don't study childhood speech development, but like it's a practice, right? We practice that. And I think if in improvisatory music, as I understand it, is you rehearse. You can rehearse, and rehearsing will allow you to. I mean, there's so many like cliche quotes. Like I think it's the I don't know which piano player, but it said, you learn all the rules in order to forget them. But you have to learn them first, right? So you have a wider
Then
repertoire.
when taught Thelonious Monk to like hit piano, he's like sort of like the way he did, right? That's what comes off.
When you say nobody taught him,
Not taught him to like hit the piano, he's the way it was. I don't know, it's like
I mean that flatted fifth, right? Like he just insisted on making the wrong note until our ears, cultural ears adapted, right? So that like it's a flat. I mean, in addition to his rhythm, it's just like not to geek out on what you call it, disaster jazz, but like he plays with a tritone, which is even in Plato is outlawed in Plato's Republic, the tritone. And it's the most, for a Western ear, it's like the most awkward sounding thing, except it's supposed to resolve, right? And he doesn't resolve it. So he hits that, and we can pull out the piano later, I can demo it. And he just does it over and over in his music with such insistence that it's just, so it becomes part of his conversational technique, right? Just like somebody who has a stutter, or somebody who has a weird way of, the Christopher Walken would be an example of where you emphasize. I'm not going to do it. I'm sorry. I'm not going to do it. But like, point of emphasis, rhythm, all the things that poets do or tend to look at, rhythm, sonority, all of those things. And I'm always interested in what is that weird note that just doesn't sound right, but you say you repeat it, you believe it in a way as a form of communication such that it expands the vocabulary such that then that's normalized. And we have a long tradition of this and all sorts of, right? Like what, now you listen to Charlie Parker, it's like, it's just background jazz, right? But in 1942 or whatever, it was like, right? Because it's like you're not allowed to do that. That's weird. Why are you playing these flat ninths, or doing all these substitutions? Like, why would you do that, right? It's like, right? Or Stravinsky, all these things, right? This is the history of like just expanding the repertoire. And good conversation, you would, hopefully have that even if it's not showing. I think poetry just tends to be like, I'm stepping out of conversation to be a little, like, show my chops.
Neither of you wore that as like to ask. You didn't feel either of you self-congratulatory, despite I found both of your works quite generous. So sorry, thank you. Yeah, but you're doing a conversation. I love it. What are you supposed to talk about? When's the last time you hung out together in California? Did you fly together? You got the window seat.
Yes, I picked them up off the airport.
Yeah.
I switched
Is he a
seats.
good driver? I think he's a good driver. I hardly know.
There was an open bottom. There was there were a variety of drinks available in the back seat of his truck upon arrival, which is not a California thing. We hung out last week to talk a little bit about some of the concepts we're circling around. I mean, one of the things that and then Rodrigo, I don't know if it was only Rodrigo, but we were sent a set of questions, and one of them was, I don't remember how it was articulate framed exactly, but like, you know, broadly, what is the relationship between poetry, poetics, and social movements? Is increasing, and I responded like it's more and more separated, more and more divorced for a variety of historical reasons, and you felt like it was more and more connected, so I thought that was one thing. And the case you made in your brief response, just an email, made sense to me because it's very like in the Bay Area, like in the Bay Area, I think that we have a unique relationship. Let's say since '09, the campus revolts, and then Occupy, and subsequently. I'm just more pessimistic for just given like we've read Juliana Spahr's the Du Bois Telegram, which is about the history of State Department and like big foundations like Ford Foundation after the 60s, really intervening with this, actually like giving a lot of money to poetry organizations that were coming out of social movements, so like Watts, after the Watts riots, queer movements like La Raza movements, all these sort of identitarian political movements that had their own poetry and presses, to sort of, here's a bunch of money so you can set up a cultural operation, right? In other words, to keep you busy doing this cultural politics of what we now call recognition, and you get, I mean, they're all good. It sounds like I'm being dismissive, but like Cave Canem and all of these nonprofits that, you know, provide opportunities for young poets, but it's more and more separated from, I mean, Juliana did a bunch of FOIA requests to find, like, literally these Ford Foundation people are like, we want to get them out of the streets and into writing, and if their poems are like, fuck the state, burn it down, cool, as long as they're over here in poetry, right? They did the same, it's a great book, I can't think of the author, but it's a great book, The History of Avant-Garde Jazz in the States. It's the same thing, right? A bunch of investment in the early 70s into jazz programs in cities, in Watts, in Chicago, in the universities, and you get, Braxton gets tenure, Archie Shepp gets tenure, you get a bunch of people, so there's middle-class jobs for these radical musicians, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's like a historical moment of like this kind of. But I do think it's changing now, especially like you could name indigenous struggles, like Standing Rock, especially First Nation struggles in Canada around pipeline. I mean, Stephen Collis, you know, that's where he gets arrested for, he's got a poem about how to build a blockade. Then he gets arrested for being part of a blockade at Simon Fraser, north of Vancouver. And then introduced into his trial is his poem about how to build a blockade, and then his next book is the trial transcript. So you get this kind of like the language of the law, which is interesting new material that comes out of these struggles. Out of Standing Rock, out of 2020, not so much, where you would say like, oh, there's a new formal things coming out of this moment, right? And I don't know, I just think it's different in different countries. I mean, certainly Palestine has focused in kind of a shift to a more international solidarity around a question of like how you address a genocide from afar without it being spectacle, atrocity porn, liberal hand-wringing, like I feel so bad, complicity porn, right? Like it's raised a number of questions that I don't think have been answered, but those at least provides a landscape that I think more and more poets are like, that's a question I need to grapple with. I don't know.
Yeah, let me say something about that. So yeah, like the Splice curator sent us some questions, kind of, just kind of salve the thoughts before this, and this was the most, I think, interesting divergence where they very usefully posed a question the social movements and poetics, the relation increasing or decreasing. So very openly, stated. And Buuck said clearly decreasing, and I said increasing. So yeah, so and like basically, yeah, as Buuck said, like his framework was from the 60s and 70s to the present, and that cultural delinking between the cultural aspect and the political aspect. And I said increasing because in my own experience, which I take the 2008 economic crisis as a very important reference point. I remember hitting the Bay Area scene in that year. It was much more just kind of just social and clubby and like but it was building as people got involved in the student movements like myself in 2009, and Occupy movement in 2011, and poets really got involved. And then thinking about the present, like it's almost a common sense of poets to be concerned about social movements, Palestine, ICE, stuff like that. And so I see that as a very positive development. But not to say Buuck is wrong. Yeah, it's like we're coming at it at different perspectives. Like yeah, from the 60s to the present, that very arguably is true. But I think it is a great thing about the Bay, and in pockets throughout the nation, including some people I've talked to tonight in this trip, like people who both do political things, poets who both do political things, and also do the work informed by those things. And I think those two sides of the coin about seeing the positive developments and being very critical of the state of things are very important, to be together. Yeah, so.
Can I ask a question, both of you guys? David, you just mentioned forms a second ago, and I'm just really curious where you guys stand on the evolution of language with respect to talking to machines. Every day, one of my jobs, I have to talk to a bot. If I want to call the car dealership, people will change my car. I got to talk to a bot before I talk to a real person. You got bots talking to bots, right? You got like this increasing, like de-selfification of language, where it's like language in an abstract is communicating with language in an abstract. Like weird shit's happening because of that now, right? Each of you is kind of like working with tension regarding a self-producing language in order either to achieve an effect or to deny an effect or to gain an effect. But now we got bots doing it all for us. Can you just give me your read on where you sit? It's increasingly normal. We talk to bots, and we're supposed to be great with this. This is supposed to be like the good thing that's happening, according to some sectors of society. So, can you just tell me where you guys stand in relation to that tension? It messes up every Monday morning after this Monday. I get to talk to a bot. Can't wait. So, look forward to that.
Well, one of the things, because you talked about totality, for you, your writing is the totality of all discourse. And what is a bot what is the internet but the totality of all discourse? But it's corporatized to value more over others, right? Search engine results, all this stuff. So it's about the intervention in that. I'm an old man. It's like, I'm just sort of like, I'm going to let the kids figure that one out because I don't, there's a lot of people that are bots too, right? We replicate ideology and terms of phrase and all that sort of thing. Probably, end of day, I'm a romantic, so I want to believe in like, there's something unique about human expression, right? But, it's going to be one of the things in the next 20 years language workers will be dealing with. But we also have a moment where it's like, it's a cliche story, right, of Western art, but like painters are painting representational paintings, and then photography comes along. It's like we have a mechanized version of like, I can do this shit better than you. It's basically a bot. It's a little machine. I mean, it's subjective, as we learn when it comes to art photography, but literally, chink. I don't need to like hire a painter, a court painter to paint you. I've got it. So painters are like, well, shit, what can we do in paint that photography can't? Abstraction, you know, impressionism, expressionism, right? So there may be something that actually releases, like, poetry, language, art, or whatever from, what does the bot do that does well, and let it do that. And what are the things that it can't do well, and that's the areas that we will, right? I mean, it's like you can, you know, program the AI to write the hit country song, right? Rather than panic about that, be like, cool, so now those are taken care of. I don't have to write a hit country song, right? It's a formula. It's proven it's a formula, right? So either I can do the formula too, or I can be like, oh, what doesn't hit the formula, right? And that actually might be a more interesting challenge to my creativity, whatever that is to be like, oh, what would actually be like, that the bot's like, oh, that's not good, right? It's the Thelonious Monk. No, the bot doesn't want to hit that tritone because the dominant algorithm, you know, the collection of all data is like, well, that's a rare sort of like glitch, right? We don't want to glitch it. It's not about the, what's her name? Hito Saraiva talks about this, which is that the algorithm, you know, these AI things, they condense everything to the mean, right? The mean, which is the, you know, it's populist in a way. Great, that's fine. Like, I'm okay with that. It saves us a lot of trouble. And then artists, whatever that means, and then are like, well, what can I do that's not that? And the history, right? Like, who was the first person to like, guitarist to like deal with distortion, right? That would have been like, well, that's wrong. Like, shit, something's wrong with your amp. Actually, you know what? Let's use that. That's a new weird noise that goes into the you know, the bot of whatever, corporate popular music, right? The formula. I don't know. I don't know if that's hopeful, and it's not going to work at your day job. It's not going to work on a Monday. But like, I'm just, yeah. But part of it is I just stay off the computer. Just like, I talk to my dog, right? And she also is like, you know, do that. She's a, you know, but she's softer than the bot.
Way more sanguine answers.
Way more what? Cynical?
Sanguine.
Oh, I don't know what that word means. Okay. No,
That was a interestingly optimistic answer. Yeah, and also, yeah, I want to say one more thing about the last question. It's like, yeah, you're more pessimistic, importantly negative stance to social movements and politics. In my, you know, more positive, that shows up in the work too. Yeah, importantly, yeah. But I really agree with this, your last answer about, you know, AI and technology. Here's an anecdote to illustrate this. I was published in a technology journal in the Bay Area, and technology is big in the Bay Area, yeah, which is a whole topic to talk about. So I got to give a reading of Totality Cantos to this crowd at KQED of mostly tech people, and they really enjoyed it. Yeah, and they said AI could not have written what you just presented, and one of my I guess opinions about this is kind of riffing off what Buuck said. AI can do all this stuff, and that's gonna, if it's interesting to read, then great, more interesting things to read. But it's gonna push, you know, actual human writers to do something more interesting. Also, yeah, a friend of mine, as a kind of a joke, he programmed a script to produce some text that resembled my book, Totality Cantos. But to me, it wasn't as good because, there wasn't the what Edgar Pound says, the dance of the intellect among words. Yeah, it just wasn't there. Yeah, so I'm still better than this bot. Yeah, like objectively, yeah. So, like a...
It's Brian's tramp stamp, better than a bot.
Yeah.
You say
I think we all agree with that.
dance of the intellect? That's a good way of ending things.
Yeah.
Hey, can I ask a question? You guys live in the Bay, right?
Yeah.
I do. We do. The good thing is that
This is a
Splice
really
is
dumb
open up.
question.
No, it opens up to the
Do
floor.
you guys ever
and-
visit the sea lions at Pier 39?
Oh, I have. Yeah. Yep.
Thank you so much, Brian and David, for coming out. Thank you all for coming.